As a stay-at-home mom, you can find yourself spending a lot of time on the screen rather than on what would help you to be productive and fruitful. And this is because you have your timetable in your hands. Nobody is following you up to know what you're doing or what you didn't do or what needs to be done. And so you can find a lot of your time spent on the screen. And in today's video, I want to share 7 ways in which you can limit your screen time for greater productivity and fruitfulness. And I say this because I know the screen can also be helpful, because from there we can find things that would help us to be even more fruitful and productive, and yet we still need a lot of time to implement those or to do what needs to be done. So I am sharing the 7 ways we can limit our screen time so that we can end up glorifying the Lord by accomplishing much more for His glory. Welcome to Formations of a Noble Woman. This is a channel where we share matters womanhood and a woman, seeking the mind of God concerning the same, so that you and I can align our lives to His will and purpose. And if you're new here, kindly consider subscribing, hit the notification bell. You'll be notified every time I upload new content. My prayer is to upload the kind of content that would be helpful for you, so that practically you can live the kind of life that will glorify the Lord. So as is always our custom, we will pray and trust the Lord to give us a fruitful time. Indeed, Father, just speak to us and help me and my viewer to clearly hear from you, Father, and to do that which pleases you, so that by what I share, grant that it will be a blessing to us. In Jesus' name, amen. Some of the ways I'm sharing are really simple, but I pray they will contribute to helping you to limit your screen time for greater productivity for the glory of God. The first habit is to make sure to switch your data off before you go to sleep. And I know when you switch your data off, a lot of times notifications will be dealt with, and you will only be left with emergency situations. The people who must reach you because it's an emergency or something that must be dealt with. A lot of times when I have gone to bed or I'm relaxing, I then get to see myself checking out a lot of things, say that what people have said, or I need to respond to messages, I need to check out my Facebook page, I need, all this, I need to check out status on WhatsApp, and I can find that a lot of my time is getting consumed as a result of that. But I have found when I switch off my data, helps me to rest, helps me to focus on the last moments of the evening, to just spend them wisely, whether it's in prayer or reflective time with my husband, or something that would help me to go to sleep well. This will help you to reduce on your screen time because you don't have to use data. I mean, you would need the data to look at your screen anyway. And the second one that is close to the one I have just shared is trust the Lord never to switch on your data in the morning as first thing until you've done the most important transaction of the day, which is your fellowship with God. I personally will not switch my data on when I wake up. I first take time to have my devotion with the Lord. I take time to read. For the 20 or 30 minutes that I will often read, I will take time to listen to the Bible app I do after my devotion. And I actually switch on so that I can listen to that Bible app that I must listen to with data, and also just a preaching that would be helpful for me, or a teaching before I go to anything else. Check my pages, check my WhatsApp, check, all that. I will do that when I have done all that. When you start the day with your data on, you will find something that will tempt you to watch, with some of the notifications. You will find if you get into YouTube, you will watch something perhaps for a whole 5 minutes. It may look like very little time, but I tell you that's a lot of time spent that you didn't anticipate to spend that way. You will find yourself responding to messages on Facebook or WhatsApp, something that you wouldn't have done until, when you didn't need to. And the third one that leads up to that is prioritize your personal devotion with the Lord. take it so seriously, because I have found when I prioritize my time with the Lord, whether it's in my personal devotion every morning, whether it's those times of fasting when we fast during our day of fasting, whether it's that time I just spend with the Lord, prioritizing it, because God will help you to just know that certain things you're going to watch, you can tell that wouldn't please the Lord. You're sharpening your spiritual antennae as you spend time with Him. You are sharpening your ability to hear His voice, so that when He warns you about something by His Spirit, puts a check in your spirit, by His Spirit at work in you, you'll be able to tell that that's not the will of God for me to watch, and so you will take it seriously. So I always just say, prioritize your time with the Lord, and you will find a lot of the things you would have watched that just cut down by the very fact that you are walking with the Lord. And the next one is focus on sober godly content that you can watch or listen to while doing something else. For a stay-at-home mom, there's a lot of things that we need to do, a lot of things that take up our time, and we just need all the time that we can get in the world. And one of the easier ways and the simple wise ways of being built up mentally and also learning something is being able to listen to content that you can listen to while you're working. I have found some very useful preachings, teachings, content that would help me to be an effective woman, that I have listened to a lot. Recently I have been listening a lot to Elizabeth Elliot, for example, and I have been blessed a lot by her content, and I'm thankful that the reason why I have listened a lot is because I can listen as I am washing dishes, listen as I am making breakfast, listen as I am working in the bathroom. I can listen without necessarily stopping what I'm doing and just concentrating on that. So that's one of the ways I limit my screen time, in that I still accomplish a lot more, yet I'm able to listen rather than sit down, watch, and then continue with my work. And the next one I would say is specify time blocks when you can watch something that needs your full-time attention. What about blocking like a Saturday afternoon when maybe you want to watch a movie, or maybe you want to watch something that will engage your mind and you must watch, but you've specified a time block and you know that until I reach that Saturday afternoon, I am not going to watch this. Or maybe when I'm relaxing with a cup of tea, then I can watch this 10-minute video. I be specific. I don't just pick on a video and I watch it, because that way I will find myself spending a lot of time on the screen. Let me just throw in this tip that has been very helpful for me when it comes to watching content, especially on YouTube. Just make it a habit of checking up a person's profile. I have been shocked. I'm searching for something and a person's channel comes up, and when I go to search and find who they are, and I am just grateful that I didn't even start watching their content, because their beliefs are in direct contrast to my beliefs. They are not pleasing God by their lifestyle and by their way of life. So I would say just thank God Google is here, and we'll have a lot of information on a lot of the people that we watch. So you just want to make it a habit to always go and check first. Before you start watching someone, just check who they are on Google, get to know who they are before you get into their content too deep and regret why you even started watching them in the first place. The sixth one is the less the screen time, the better for you. As much as possible, you just want to cut down on screen time. However much you can try, if you can do without screen time, the better. If you must watch, then limit it as much as possible, so that a lot of times you will always find yourself doing something useful and something fruitful. For some of us who have watched me here know that we limit, for instance, our children's screen time, so that we will only allow them to watch from Friday through to Sunday and just over the weekends. And many times we tell them, just get creative, do something with your hands, play, you know, work in the house, do the chores. Because you see, you want to just trust the Lord that they would have less of screen time and more of creative activity, so that way they will glorify the Lord by what they do, and they will tend to work on their creative juices, if I would call it that. And I've seen a lot of creativity coming out of our children, you know, with making cards, making beads, including these earrings that my daughter just made for us the other day as a Christmas gift DIYs, together with her aunties, her grandparents, you know, just making little things that would be a blessing, because they have the time and they can do that rather than if they were watching the screen. So the less the screen time, the better for you. And the last point is just cultivate the discipline of solitude. I have found this very helpful. I'm thankful I live in the countryside, and so we have opportunities, you know, to take walks, to reflect, to pray. I personally like to just take a walk around our village and reflect, and most of the time actually the village roads are deserted because people are working in their farms and all that. And so there's a lot of time that you can take to reflect on what you have been studying in the scriptures, for example, to pray, you know, to think through issues in silence. And this is so important, not just now for when you set aside time to walk, but what about when you're in the house? Because I know families where it looks strange when the house is quiet. Actually, when a person enters, they're like, why, what's happening? Why is it so quiet? And somebody quickly switches on the TV, the radio, you know, whatever. But you want to trust the Lord to just have quietness so that people can learn to be reflective, you know, to have conversations when they need to, by just practicing that discipline of quietness, of solitude, of learning to listen to the Lord and walk with Him in His Word in silence rather than just having noise, especially now that we are surrounded by noise on the media and wherever. Let's practice the discipline of just being quiet before the Lord. I believe there's a verse that says, let all the earth be silent before Him. There's a lot of value in just being quiet rather than having the noise around us. Thank you for joining me in today's video. I want to trust that it has been a blessing to you. Look out for our next video, again another delightful one that I pray would be a blessing to you. And until then, bye.